So those are two big things. Make sure that you're very organized, keeping track of your P&L, and then having lots of communication with the people who are working for or on your projects.
Welcome to Multifamily Insights. I'm your host, John Casman, and I want to thank you for joining us for another great episode. Listen, if you're getting some great value, it's helping you grow and expand your real estate knowledge and helping you along your investing journey, let us know about it, right? Leave us that rating and review. It helps us, but it also helps other investors find this show. And if you haven't done so, make sure you hit that follow or subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. We've got a great show today. We're going to be talking to Catie Lawrence. They say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you want to grow as a multifamily investor, you have to spend more time with other multifamily investors. And an easy way to do that is to join our apartment investing mastermind group today. Just go to casmancapital.com and click on the mastermind button. Now, as a part of this group, you'll get access to expert trainings, group coaching calls, industry news and updates, as well as all of our webinars and workshops, including our 3-hour workshop on raising capital. Again, if you want to be around other multifamily investors that can help you scale your portfolio today and grow your network, make sure you're a part of the Apartment Investing Mastermind. Just go to casmancapital.com and click on the mastermind button today. Now, Catie Lawrence is with Happy Homes Ltd, living and working in the Denver metro area and splitting time between Fraser and Denver. She is a real estate agent, a real estate investor, a marketer, an Airbnb Super Host, and a house hacker, fix, and flipper. Now, this is a financial freedom advocate, mountain biker, and the host of a mastermind within her brokerage. Let's welcome to the show, Catie Lawrence.
Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be a really fun conversation.
Absolutely, Catie. I'm excited to have you on. I went over your bio at a very high level. Why don't you take 2 minutes and fill in some of those gaps?
Absolutely. So I have been investing in real estate since 2008 when I bought my first townhouse. Similar to, I'm sure a lot of people kind of fell into real estate because I got a roommate. And then I got a little taste of, hey, we're splitting bills. That's pretty nice. Yeah, so that was great. And then in 2012, started renting out a room via a little company called Airbnb. Um, that was great as well. Fast forward a few years, my husband and I moved to Denver, Colorado in 2014. He is a contractor, so that is very nice. We got our current house that we live in, our primary, and he started doing fix and flips for an investor. Being a contractor, you kind of have to restart your business if you relocate, get new subs, all of the things. So he hooked up with an investor. They did some fix and flips, and then I was working a W-2, very traditional. I was in marketing, healthcare, IT, was a high earner. It was a great, I was investing heavily in 401 and all of the things. But then we kind of had a conversation. Why aren't we doing this ourselves? In 2014, Denver was beginning to become a very hot market. So we did our first fix and flip 2 doors down from our house. It's nice to know your neighbors. And then we just were on a trajectory from there. We started our company in 2015 and have done about 11 flips. We hold 3 long-term rentals and 1 midterm rental currently. And that is a little nutshell of who I am and what we do.
I love it. You talked about, your background and being in the healthcare and IT space, being out there in the Denver area, watching it start to take off. And even before that, just like the little seeds being planted, right? Having that roommate, splitting the bills, getting that Airbnb room that you're renting out, and then ultimately starting to invest doing that first flip project before really expanding that portfolio. For you, when you had that day job, you're working in, marketing at that healthcare IT company, what was it that inspired you to get started investing in real estate?
Yeah, so I think again, we ended up moving to Denver and kept our rental in right outside of Philadelphia. That's where I'm originally from. So we just kind of fell into landlording. Well, this is something that you don't want to really fall into, like processes and systems. You need to get your what together to really figure that out, especially having a long distance rental. So that was really our first taste of, hey, there's somebody paying down the mortgage. We're getting a little bit of cash flow. It didn't cash flow a ton. And then my husband was doing the fix and flips. So I think Being a risk averse person, I've been on the financial independence train for a while. I never thought I'd leave my job for real estate. I remember when we were doing fix and flips, we were paying our agents more than we were paying our plumbers and our electricians. And I mean, we were gutting houses. So a few years down the road, my husband and I were having a talk. Why don't you get your agent's license? And in my head, I was like, why would I do that? I have a W-2. Well, it's very it parlayed into what our goals were buying and holding, fixing and flipping. So in 2021, I quit my W-2. In 2020, I started my real estate test, the end of 2020. So I was really setting up the scene to be able to quit my job. Again, risk averse person. I don't think you should ever jump fully without having a little bit of a plan. But that's just me. I know some people are like, burn the boats. Um, I didn't want to burn the boats. I wanted to have a plan. So that was really how we got into it. It was very gradually. And having a contractor husband helped.
I like when you talk about just really gradually moving into it, because if I'm listening to the timeline, right? So 2012, you kind of did your Airbnb. 2014, you did that first flip project, slowly starting to kind of build this up. But it wasn't really until 2020 that you decided, okay, hey, let me lay the groundwork for me to make that full-time transition. Talk to me about kind of that time frame. Like, what was it from 2014 to 2020? Like, what did you do? Did you have any mishaps? Like, what kind of was the process to slowly scale this up to get to the point where you say, okay, you know what, I'm now ready to make that transition?
Absolutely. So again, still working a W-2. My husband in 2014, 15, we started our company. We were doing about 1 to 2 flips a year. So pretty small. It was just my husband and I. He had some subs, but our goal wasn't to build out a business, a flipping business. Like we were the business. Happy Homes is two owners. Um, so that momentum of we reinvested all of the capital that we gained from those flips and having my husband be able to do a lot of the work, our margins were great, because he wasn't really getting a paycheck because I had the paycheck. So we were reinvesting everything back into the business, so we were able to eventually buy cash. So we had multiple flips that we were buying over a period of years. And then 2020 happened and we had a flip that was under contract. It fell out of contract because COVID, COVID flip, I'm sure people have been there. It fell out and we were kind of like, oh, shoot, what do we do? We ended up long-term renting that property. We still own that property. It's been great. It's appreciated ridiculous amounts. And that's kind of made us pivot our long-term strategy. So we started buying and holding. We bird that property essentially, pulling money out, refinancing, and then with that money, we bought a turnkey condo, and then we bought another flip that we just sold this past May. So slowly, right? The flips really help that flush of cash. And again, you can use that either to, living expenses or reinvest into another property. But we did start burring because that was just what we had to do. I think having an exit strategy is important. Understanding, hey, if this doesn't sell, what do we do with that? So we've had multiple properties that we've had to pivot on. Throughout the years, and it's kind of hard lessons at the time, but it's really helped us grow in the long run.
I think the ability to pivot is so key as a real estate investor, because you never know what's going to happen. So you want options, especially if you're talking about the single family homes, right? So you've done some flip projects, you've done some Airbnbs, some short-term rentals, some mid-term rentals, some long-term rentals. When you enter into a project, is it of the notion that, hey, we're going to try to flip this first and foremost, but if not, we're willing to pivot? Or do you kind of craft a specific business plan for each project initially?
Absolutely. Initially, we go into it having a plan. Hey, we're going to flip this. Hey, we're very strategic about where we have bought before. We like to buy in the area where we live. We were living in Arvada, Colorado. It's a Denver metro. It's a great area. So we were purchasing homes within 2 to 5 miles radius of our house. That commute is an important thing to figure out. So going into a project, we do a statement of work right away because Mike's a contractor. It's great that he knows these things, but obviously things can happen. So one of the flips that we did where this things can happen situation happened, we bought a house. It was supposed to be a very quick flip. Foundation issues were found. We bought it from a wholesaler, so cash. So it's not, we could have pursued legal ramifications, but we just, let's move forward. Long story short, we ended up popping the top, doing an additional like almost 1,200 square feet. It wasn't selling. So talk about this project was a bear. It wasn't selling. So we ended up Airbnb-ing it through the winter before Denver got very strict on their short-term rental laws, because that's something that you have to know about the area you're investing in if short-term rental is your thing. We Airbnb and beat it through the winter, covered all holding costs, and then sold it in the spring. So again, that's kind of a worst case scenario, but I think you have to look at properties. If this doesn't sell, could we burr it and get money out of it and long-term rent it? Is it that kind of neighborhood? I would definitely recommend you think through at least one exit strategy just in case it doesn't happen the way you think it's going to.
Yeah, I think that's key. Like you said, in that space, especially when you're flipping, because flipping kind of requires you to time the market just a little bit, right? So you don't want to be selling it in the dead of winter. So
Mhm.
making sure that you have a backup plan in case you're not able to hit that number. And then the other thing with single families is, you kind of have a time frame where the market's giving you feedback, especially when the market's hot. If a property is
Oh,
sitting there for 90 days, people are just going to assume the worst, and that
100%.
value starts to drop. We did a flip project before I fully committed. I was committed to real estate and particularly multifamily, but before I 100%, that's really all we do. I was doing a couple of flips, and that's exactly what happened. We had a bunch of issues, but
Yep.
when we went to put it on the market, we had buyers, but they always would find an issue, and it sat
Mhm.
there, and we ended up having to drop the price a couple of times. And then ultimately, it just became something where we had to decide, hey, we're either going to sell it at what the market is saying it's valued at today, or we're going to take it off the market completely and just hold it or rent it out and try
Yep.
again next year. So definitely makes sense to have those options on the exit. Otherwise, you could certainly set yourself up for some problems. So
Absolutely.
you mentioned that, you were always focused on financial independence. And a lot of
Mhm.
our listeners are focused on financial independence, and that's the reason they're interested in real estate.
Sure.
Talk to me about your approach to financial independence, right? Because you walked away from the day job, you have investments in different strategies, right? Some short-term, mid-term, long-term rentals. Talk to me about kind of the way you look at financial independence and what are you looking to build?
Yeah, so I started financial independence journey probably about 7 years ago. I've always been kind of frugal, and I think there's a shift in that fire community of you don't always have to be super super frugal to be able to achieve financial independence.
You can
I
have
just
that latte?
have the latte. Just, think about like the $100,000 decisions, not the $5 decisions. Ramit Sethi always talks about that. If you know
Yep.
that name, he's awesome. So anyway, kind of approached it like I've always been a heavy saver. I've always, again, risk averse, kind of stacked away. My parents kind of taught me, don't take out debt, although I do believe in good debt. So years and years, I've just been kind of squirreling away. Again, having a roommate helps. Living below your means helps. And I'm not talking eating ramen every night or, not having the latte. I'm just being cognizant of where your money is going. So I wasn't budgeting or any of that. I was just very aware. Like in my early 20s, friends would get married in destination, you know, places and really expensive trips. And I said no a lot, probably a little bit of fear of, oh my gosh, I can't afford that. But my salary was this. I just couldn't make it work. So I know a lot of people who stretch themselves a little too thin to be able to YOLO, which I'm all about that too. But at the time I wasn't. So again, saving, saving, saving. I I always maxed out my 401k. I started an HSA. Um, this you can invest in. An HSA is almost like a health savings, like a Roth account. If you don't know about that, check it out. I have a brokerage. I started just diversifying my savings. So when we started getting into the real estate business, because it is a business, I started seeing, oh my goodness, we're netting almost six figures on flips, and we're able to leverage that into buying assets that are going to produce income for us? Like what? I mean, because I wasn't into the bigger pockets back then. I didn't really do a ton of research. There's so much research out there now, which is lovely. But again, kind of fell into the real estate thing. So I think I started seeing that real estate was another asset class that appreciated immensely over time, depending on your market. Don't, you know,
So over
what are,
time, that time
over
may
time.
be a long time, but over time.
100%. And like, what are your goals? Are you looking for cash flow or are you looking for appreciation? You have to kind of weigh that based on the strategy. But so I approached financial independence of just this is going to be a slow and low burn. And when we started doing the flips and getting the cash flow, like right now we're cash flowing almost $5,000 a month, which doesn't sound like a lot, but we only own 4 properties. So again, over the time frame, if you are keeping your living expenses relatively in check, this this is huge. And with my agent license, again, another skill, another income producing skill that I can go and leverage. So I looked at fire as not like, oh, sweet, I want to go drink pina coladas on the beach. I looked at it as a way to get time freedom. I can pick the projects we want to do. I can, pick the clients that I want to work with. Um, so that's kind of how I approached it. I know that was a very long answer.
Yeah, no, I think it's helpful though. Talk to me about kind of your life now that you are full time in real estate compared to when you had that W-2 job. How's it different?
Oh my goodness. So different. You are tied to somebody else's timetable when you have a W-2, and that's good or bad. If you love your job, that's great. I started not loving it. So now I literally get to serve the clients I kind of select. I work mostly with referrals. So I haven't had that hustle culture that sometimes is in real estate, which I've been very lucky. Um, I craft my days around fun, around lifestyle projects, around if I have clients, obviously they come first, but it's really about being a good steward of your time. And I'm a big mountain biker. I'm a big camper. I'm a big skier. So you get to think about your life a little differently of what do I actually want to do, which can be kind of overwhelming too. I'll be honest about that. Sometimes it's like, wow, I have a lot of time on my hands. So what am I going to do? So you really have to get curious and intentional. I think I live a very intentional life where I try to. So I have an accountability club with a bunch of amazing women. And one of the women the other day said, what do you want your life to look like? What do you want your day to look like? I'm like, I've been asking myself those questions for years. And I think it's a good question to ask. What do you want your life to look like? Because a lot of people are like, oh man, a Brandon Turner or a David Green. Like, I want to be, do you know how much work is involved in that? Like, just make sure that you understand that, the input for the output you want.
I think that's key too, right? There, so many people want to be financially independent. They want to be entrepreneurs. But to your point, a lot of entrepreneurs work even more than they did when they
Mhm.
had a W-2 job. I know a lot of entrepreneurs who don't take vacations and,
Mhm.
really don't have a lot of free time. And I do think it's really important to be intentional about what you're trying to do. If you want just a bunch of free time, okay, that's one pathway. But if you really just want more control over when you work and where you work, then that's something different altogether. And I know many of our listeners are passive investors, right? They're looking to invest passively in deals, real estate being one of the avenues
Yeah.
to do that. But it's not always about just the dollars and cents, right? It's not always just about the investment. It's about what those investments get you. What do they allow you to do? The flexibility, more enjoyment. I like to think of it as more time with the people you love, doing the things you love. And that way you have control over these things. And that's what really, you can get when it comes to real estate. As you,
Absolutely.
yeah, as you think more about kind of the intentionality. You kind of have the flipping business, you're building up the rental portfolio, you have your license. Where do you see the business and yourself kind of going over the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah. So we are again up in Fraser, Colorado, up in the mountains. I see myself building a business up here. I want to be here because this is the lifestyle I want. And I feel that a lot of second homeowners, a lot of people who want this lifestyle think it's unattainable. So I kind of want to help people understand that this lifestyle is possible. So I would love to continue to build my business up in Fraser, Colorado, which is definitely a different market than down in Denver. It's a second home market. There are, of course, people who live here full time, but a lot of the market is second home. We are in the market for a build ourselves. So I think our business will buy land, build a home, live in it for 2+ years, and then sell, and then do that again. So again, my husband works for a builder up here. So he's building those connections. I think that's also very important while you're on the entrepreneur journey to, build up the skills, take the opportunities that are presented to you and as learning experiences, even though they may stink at the time and like be a lot of hard work. But yeah, so I think I see myself building the business up here, and then potentially building. It's not necessarily a flip; it's just a build and sell. A 2 to 3 time frame on those.
If you could go back to say 2017, 2018, Katie, right? So you've got a couple of deals under your belt, not a huge portfolio, but a couple deals, still working your full-time job, but eventually knowing that, hey, I'm risk adverse, but I think this is the path I want to go down, or at least in the future. What
Mm.
advice would you give to that, Katie?
Oh my goodness, buy more. Leverage your W-2 in a smart way. Leverage your W-2. Because when you quit your job, unless you do have a business that's making income, you are not bankable. So on paper, it might look like, you are doing well, but the bank might see that, oh, there's $5,000 of income. That's not great. They're not looking at your W or your 401, your Roth. They're not looking at that unless you're working with a hard money lender. And that's a whole different story. But I would say learn about debt and leverage it safely and smartly, because I definitely would have bought more.
Yeah, I think it's really important, right? Because when you're making that transition, it goes back to being intentional. You don't really know some of these things until you don't have it, right? So the banks are looking at you as a W-2 employee. They're saying, all right, you make X amount of dollars. So even if this property doesn't pay, you have enough money to pay. But as a business owner, we want our businesses to be independent. Like that property needs to pay for itself. Like the money I make over here is for me over here.
100%.
So it's great to understand that when you have leverage, take advantage of it. Doesn't mean you need to over leverage, but it just means that hey, it's gonna be easier to lend to you at that time. Was there anything from a process standpoint you would do differently, or you would maybe give advice to someone who was in those shoes today?
Yeah, I would say understand your P&L, even if you're like, oh, well, I just have one rental property. Understand the profit, understand the loss, track mercifully, just every receipt, treat your rental business. If you have rentals, if you have flips, treat it like a business. I think when we first started, it was, hey, we're kind of bootstrapping. I'm running over on my lunch breaks, on holidays, on weekends, trying to help Mike, pick up materials and then get back to my W-2. And he's a contractor, so he's not keeping track of anything. So you really have to run it like a business. And the first flip or two, it was kind of like, oh my goodness, I think we made money. I mean, when taxes came due, you have to really sit down and understand, okay, like, no, we need to really be diligent about this so we can pass this information over to our accountant. Um, so that was just a big learning curve of just keeping track of things, understanding those processes, having regular business meetings with Mike. 'Cause again, we're married, so you're thinking, oh, well, you spend a lot of time together. Again, he's a contractor, people. Do you know any contractors? So we would get home and he'd be like, okay, I'm done. And I'd be like, well, what's coming up and what are the plans for next week? Is the plan? And he'd just be like, oh my goodness, like too much, like overload. So I think having a good rapport with the people you're working with, whether it's your husband or whether it's a contractor or whether it's a plumber, or just having a good cadence of being in contact with the people who are working on your business. So those are two big things. Make sure that you're very organized, keeping track of your P&L, and then having lots of communication with the people who are working for or on your projects.
I think it's really a great insight because so many people get into it to make passive income, right? So it's just like, oh, I have one property, it gives me X amount of dollars, whatever that amount is. But it's treated more like a hobby or a little side
Mhm,
hustle and not a business. And what we mean by that is to say, you want to understand your numbers. You want to understand your profit margins. You want to understand like your profitability. You want to know like how much money you're spending in certain things. Do you have the right vendors? And the more professional you can be in running it, tracking your information, tracking your data, accounting for things, the easier it's going to be to scale, to transition, to
mhm,
identify challenges, and truly run it like a business. Versus if you just have a property and you just collect rent, when the rent's due, and whenever a tenant calls you with an issue, you address it. That's hard to scale because you have no processes, you have no systems, you have no,
100%.
you have no framework for how this business actually runs. So it's really, really hard to scale. So to get another property probably requires just double the amount of effort for you
Mhm,
versus if you have a system, you have these processes set up, it becomes much easier to just say, okay,
oh,
hey, we've got these three properties. This is what's going on here. This is what's going on here. This is what's going on here. Hey, can we consolidate, our cleaning crew and just have them come do all these, right? So now you can run it more efficiently, but so many people
mhm,
don't think of it that way because maybe they don't envision it being a real business. They just start like you said, hey, this is my house. I moved. Well, why don't we rent it out? All
landlord.
right. All right, now you're a landlord, right? But you didn't plan on this. You didn't wake up one day with a business plan to say, "All right, hey, we're gonna move out and rent this house, and we're gonna make 22% return." Like,
Yeah.
no, it just happened, right? So now you're
Mhm,
kind of an accidental landlord. So you're not really thinking about this from a business standpoint. And that's one of the things that can really stop you from scaling or create issues because now if you have a problem that pops up, you're not really equipped to address it because you hadn't thought through this. So now you're kind of in scramble mode and you're putting out fires. And if you got a W-2 job or you're a busy professional, it can
mhm,
be overwhelming. And I see that happen so often with people who got into real estate to create passive income, but then they're almost, just completely turned off
mhm,
because it really became a part-time job and that was not their expectation. So really good advice if you want to do this, treat it like a business. If you
mhm.
really want the perks but don't want to be that person, there are ways to invest passively. Hard money
Absolutely.
lender, we do syndications. There are definitely
Mhm.
strategies out there for folks who want the benefits of investing in real estate without the headaches of being a landlord. Catie, for folks who want to learn more about you and your company, they can check out happyhomesltd.com. You're also pretty active on Instagram. Your handle is happy_homes ltd. Right now, we're going to transition to our round of insights. Are you ready?
Ooh, I'm ready.
All right, Catie, give me a failure or an apparent failure that set you up for later success.
Okay, so a failure, I was not very good at advocating for myself in my W-2. I know this is a real estate podcast, but I think keeping track of your skills, your accomplishments. So when raise time comes around, being able to advocate for that. Again, I was kind of hey, I'm going to sit back and collect a paycheck. So I think understanding the skill sets you have, always be learning. I mean, make sure that you're going to these conferences, whether it's real estate or whether your W-2 is providing them. So you can advocate for yourself for raises.
Love it. Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
Personal capital. This is a banking and net worth app. You do have to connect different banking institutions that you use and mortgages to it, but it helps not only track your net worth, which from an FI perspective, a financial independence perspective, that's very important to me. It also helps you see where you're spending. Like, ooh, dang, we ate out a lot this month. Let's dial it back a little bit. So it's a budgeting app that I really, really appreciate.
What's the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year?
Oh man. I think I Will Teach You to Be Rich, Ramit Sethi. We read this. I have a financial group that I'm a part of, the Money Minded Mavens, and we read this in our book club. And it was just so great on just how to, again, negotiate things, how to understand financing from a credit card perspective, from a mortgage perspective, just understanding how to look at what you're spending a little bit differently.
What's a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals?
Yoga.
Love it. Yoga it is. All right. Give me your number one insight for staying. Oh, let me say it this way. Give me your number one insight for managing your business.
What gets measured matters. So make sure, again, the P&L, you're understanding where your money is going, where your money is growing, and where you want it to go. I think just understanding that gives you extreme amount of insight into your life, your business, your goals.
All right. So you are out there outside of Denver. You're actually up in Fraser, Colorado. So give me your favorite place to grab a bite to eat, and you can pick Fraser or Denver.
Okay. In Denver, it's in Arvada. It's called the Spice Room. It's an Indian restaurant that is just absolutely phenomenal.
Spice Room sounds awesome. We'll have to check that out the next time we are in Denver. You gave us a lot of great information, Catie, and really enjoyed our conversation today. You mentioned your husband Mike as the contractor, so I want to throw in a little bonus question here. Many of our listeners are always trying to figure out how to do a better job managing contractors. So,
Mhm.
with your really close experience being married to this one, give us maybe a tip or an insider track that you leverage to help manage contractors.
I think what he would say is to trust them, which I know is extremely hard to do. When he finds at a project, either I am getting a little too like, well, what's going on? Well, what nitpicky? I think he feels not even defensive, but just let me do my job and we'll have results. So I would say ask your contractor, how would you like to communicate progress with me? Ask them. They might say, okay, once a week, I'm going to give you an update. Or can you meet me on site? That's going to be a lot easier for me to tell you what's going on. I think it's important to have some communication. It's not just like, hey, I trust you. You go do it and tell me when it's done. Um, I think just asking them how they want to communicate progress slash challenges slash change orders. Change orders are huge. If something comes up, ask them, if something comes up, how will you communicate that to me? Because I want to be aware and help you. And potentially they're going to need more money for this. Or so I think just asking them how they want to communicate with you, because you're going to need to be communicated with. Or get a
Yeah,
hot tub. We got a hot tub and we started having our business meetings in the hot tub because he felt relaxed. So get your contractor a hot tub.
there you go. Sit in the hot tub with your contractor, make it awkward as you can be, and we'll figure it out. Well, Catie, I appreciate it. I mean, communication is obviously very, very important. And I think too, understanding different communication styles up front, and understanding, hey, how do you communicate best? Here's what I like. Here's how I communicate. Let's figure out a strategy that works for both of us so that you feel empowered to make your decisions and I'm not just nitpicking you, but also
Mm,
that I'm informed of the progress, the process, and I can weigh in on any significant changes if necessary. And sometimes it's hard for people to come together because one side may feel defensive or like, oh,
mhm.
you don't believe I know what I'm doing, or you don't trust me, or whatever. And the truth of the matter is just when you don't have control, particularly for real estate investors, because one of the reasons you invest is because you like control, right? That's the reason you're doing this.
100%.
So it's really hard to relinquish that and just trust someone else blindly. So having those communications up front, just being aligned on how your communication styles work together, having a plan, laying that out up front, that's going to make your life really easier. Or I shouldn't say really easy, but it make it a little easier. So great stuff there, Catie. I appreciate you sharing that little bonus question with us. Again, for folks who want to learn more about you or your company, I should say your company, they can go to happyhomesltd.com, learn more about the company there. And again, you're active on Instagram at happy_homes LTD. Catie, thanks again for being a great guest and coming on Multifamily Insights. We look forward to staying in touch with you, and I hope you have a great day.